We begin with some breaking news from Los Angeles. A Los Angeles judge has sentenced Canadian rapper Tory Lanez to 10 years in prison for shooting and wounding singer Megan Thee Stallion in 2020. Lanez faced up to 22 years in prison and deportation back to Canada. He was convicted in December on 3 charges, including first-degree assault for shooting Megan Thee Stallion in the feet in 2020. It's unclear at this juncture whether he will be deported to Canada. Let's get more from CBC News senior entertainment reporter Eli Glasner. Eli, the sentencing hearing lasted 2 full days. How surprising is this result, those 10 years?
I mean, not as surprising, perhaps. It was a long couple days of deliberation, but also earlier today we heard that the judge was asking whether public safety would be served, whether he was sentenced for 13 days, 13 years, or 10 years. So that's also far under the maximum of 22, as you mentioned. So the fact that they eventually did end up on 10 years is not entirely surprising. At the same time, you look at what Tory Lanez's team was asking for. They were asking for him to be just put out on probation, saying that he was an alcoholic and needed to be dealing with the various psychiatric issues, that he suffered trauma from when his mother died at a young age. Now, let me read you some of the judge's comments after putting out his decision. This is Judge David Hereford. He said, "It was difficult to reconcile the charitable person and good father that many people described yesterday." And this was yesterday. We heard from 70 letters in support of Lanez, of the charitable work he did. We even heard letters from Iggy Azalea, another rapper, talking about Lanez, even a letter from his 6-year-old son. But the judge continued saying, "Sometimes good people do bad things, actions have consequences, and there are no winners in this case." Now, Lanez did speak to the court, and here are some of his comments. He said, "If I could turn back the series of events that night and change them, I would. The victim was my friend." Speaking of Megan Thee Stallion, you see her there in the sketches. "The victim is still someone I even care for to this day. Everything I did wrong that night, I take full responsibility for it." Now, that, John, is, I think, a dramatic difference from what the argument that his lawyers team was presenting. Up until now, they were not even acknowledging the fact that he shot the weapon and basically trying to say, you know, muddy the water and call into question whether it was him that did actually shoot Megan Thee Stallion. So the fact that he's now taking responsibility for that, I think that bears worth mentioning. Also want to mention, Megan Thee Stallion yesterday had a statement read out in court saying she didn't feel comfortable being in the same room as Lanez, but talking about basically this campaign that she said he organized against her, talking about him making a mockery of her trauma, talking about him paying bloggers to disseminate false information and releasing music videos and songs to damage her character. That was part of the statement that the court heard yesterday, as well as the letters in support for Tory Lanez, who has now been sentenced to 10 years.
And that is how it has unfolded in court. Eli, though, remind us how all of this began.
It was a party. It was a party in the Hollywood Hills. Kylie Jenner was the one that was hosting it, and I believe it was Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion, 2 very successful rappers, and Megan's assistant. They were in a vehicle. There was an argument, and at some point, according to the testimony from Megan Thee Stallion, she left the vehicle, and Lanez fired a gun at the back of her feet and shouted, "Dance." 3 days later, she disclosed on Instagram that she had suffered gunshot wounds. 4 days later, she went to police, and this, John, really split the hip-hop community. A lot of talk about, you know, women as domestic assault victims. Also, a lot of very well-known rappers taking the side of Brampton's own Tory Lanez. Drake penned a verse about Megan Thee Stallion, calling her a liar. 50 Cent took Tory Lanez's side. So a lot of people kind of throwing their weight behind Tory Lanez, but he has been sentenced to 10 years, and his team says they will be appealing this.